our 2014 film special. We'll sum up the year both in Israeli and international cinema. There's a lot to talk about, so let's get started. Don't want to waste any time. With me in the studio are I-24 News culture correspondent Shachar Peled. Great to have you. We just can't do it without you.
Happy to be here as well.
And of course, I-24 News editor Avri Rosen-Tzvi. It's nice to have you as well.
Thank you.
So let's get started. What are we going to start on? We're going to start right here in Israel.
Yeah, we're going to start right here in Israel and the wonderful year Israeli cinema had here at home and abroad.
Absolutely.
This year really marked a return of Israeli viewers to Israeli cinema. You know, Haaretz cultural correspondent Nirit Anderman called it the year when Israel's international success finally caught up with Israel.
Right.
First of all, the biggest movie this year was Zero Motivation. It brought in Israel 530,000 viewers.
Unbelievable number.
Really unbelievable, but it also had huge success at Tribeca. You know, the director Talia Lavi thought it's a very Israeli movie, but people sparked to it worldwide, and that's really sort of the core of what happened this year, is that Israeli filmmakers returned to talk to Israeli audiences. You know, you had Get, which is about the Israeli rabbinical courts. You had Mita Tova, which takes place at a moshav. Yeah, the farewell party. Yeah, and we also had a movie like Kicking Out Shoshana, which is really a sort of a crass comedy about a football player who messes with the mafioso's woman, and then he has to come out as gay. A very broad comedy that really speaks only to Israeli audiences. Yeah. It's a gamble, and it fared well. 220,000 viewers. There was also a movie based on a teen TV series, which also brought in over 200,000 people. These are movies which are not meant for international audiences at all.
But managed this year to justify their making. You know?
Justify their making. 1.86 million tickets were sold this year to Israeli.
Record, if I'm correct.
No, it's a record since the starting of the film law in Israel, which has government funding for films here. Yeah. Last year it was only 730,000 tickets. Wow. 10% of tickets sold were to Israeli movies. That's a huge increase. And that means that you can make films just for this market. You don't have to think we're making films to the world. And in case of Get and The Farewell Party and, of course, Zero Motivation, people respond even in the world, which shows if you make a particular story for a particular place, it works.
Yeah, certainly a very good year in Israeli cinema. Let's hope that 2015 will follow suit. Yeah. Let's open up to the world now. Bring Shachar in.
Yes.
What do you have for us? Where do you want to start?
We start with several categories. We start with the scandal of the year. Now, it's, of course,
easy choice.
The Interview. We've mentioned it so many times, way too many times, and now that it's finally released, people are saying, was it worth it? I'm not so sure. Very mixed reactions. But there still is news with this story that keeps giving. If most of the world can now see it, in North Korea they cannot, of course. But if defector and activist Park Sang-hak has his way, then North Koreans will be able to see the movie through his plan to use balloons to airdrop 100,000 copies of the comedy, both on DVD and USB, in the country starting late January. So 2015...
That's better than the film, I think. Story. They should make a movie about
that. It's an incredible story. Unfortunately, 2015, we're probably going to continue hearing about the Interview. That's that.
There's always a downside as well. All right, let's move on.
Yes,
let's move on to the maybe the biggest flop, I think.
Yes, we're going to start with sad news, unfortunately, and this year hit hard on an animated film. We're talking about Legends of Oz, The Return of Dorothy. Such a beloved story, you know, the entire Oz stories, and this film specifically is with the voice talent such as Dan Aykroyd and Kelsey Grammer. So it's...
Lea Michele is also there for the younger generation.
Return of Dorothy, yes, and We don't know why it failed so bad, but it failed bad. It was one of the biggest bomb of the year, a $70 million production, not including advertising and marketing, and it earned $19 million worldwide.
That's
only
19,
and
yes.
that means for the Claris Entertainment production company, less than $10 million, $9.5 million in revenues. That's a very, very low figure for such a big production.
It'll be very surprising if they make another film.
I think a guess of why this film didn't succeed is when I sent to the graphics department the film, they asked me, "Do you mean Oz the Great and Powerful?" I said, "No, there was another film about Oz. Nobody heard about this movie."
Something about marketing and advertising did not work there.
Let's move on. Let's talk about the most pirated film of the year. It's definitely something that is both good and bad for a film.
Well, I think The Wolf of Wall Street, which is #1 with downloads this year, would say it's something good.
Served it well.
I think so, because, Leo didn't get the Oscar, so at least he knows he's the favorite among pirates. Now, I think analysts these days would have to start thinking about how to analyze the film industry, not only through the ticket sales and the box office, but really through how the downloading
certainly plays a part.
is going, and it's going well. 30 million downloads for The Wolf of Wall Street, and very close to it, number 2 is Frozen with 29.9 fans of the beloved Disney princesses of Frozen.
Is there a bigger difference between two films, Wolf of Wall Street and Frozen?
It would make for a good double feature, I think.
That would be very interesting. And third is RoboCop, that although methods used to capture the data mean that they included downloads from the 1987 RoboCop with the same name, so we don't know if it's really third.
Very good film.
Gravity came right behind.
If it brought people to RoboCop, it's already a good thing.
True.
All right, let's get to the best and worst films of 2014.
So once again, we start with the bad news. Nicolas Cage does it once again with Left Behind. 2% out of 100 on Rotten Tomatoes, worst film of the year. This is based on actually the best-selling books, the Rapture books by Jerry Jenkins and Team LaHaye. They were best-selling, but the film was not.
People like to imagine the Rapture, not so much see
sort
it
of this
visually.
end of the world. He's a commercial pilot, and something went wrong with this film. Just a small quote from the Daily Beast. You think that Nicolas Cage starring adaptation of the books would at least have that it's so bad it's good thing going for it. No, it did not.
A lot of Rapture this year. We also had The Leftovers by Damon Lindelof.
Yes.
People are
Resurrection
want to see Rapture stories in America, I guess.
Or not.
Or not.
Apparently. Coming second and third, The Offensive Blended with Adam Sandler and Drew Barrymore, which generated a lot of criticism, and Colin Farrell's ridiculous haircut in Winter's Tale. Close calls as well to being the worst.
It was a wonderful film other than the haircut, but the haircut was so bad that it just brought the whole thing.
A few things about the film as well, but we won't. We'll continue to best film of the year.
Please.
And I'm happy to say this is not only a personal choice, but also from the Rotten Tomatoes scoring website. 98% for Boyhood, Richard Linklater's 12-year production. Really, not only content-wise was it very relatable and sensitive, this very personal story, but also the incredible production, cast and crew working together for 12 years consequently. Really an incredible achievement.
There's simply nothing else like it. You know, in the history of film, there isn't a film that did what this film.
The only thing you might think, the only series of films you might think is relatable is Richard Linklater's Before Midnight, Before Sunset, and Before Sunrise. Sort of this looking forward to these stories, these personal stories with the same cast. And the runner-ups here were both Whiplash and Grand Budapest Hotel. For me personally, on Whiplash, I must say that 29-year-old director and writer Damien Chazelle is definitely one of the promising directors looking forward to 2015. And the Grand Budapest, Wes Anderson.
Gone Girl was a wonderful film, I think, this year.
I thought the book was better, so any movie based on a book,
that's one up you,
The book was better.
It was, though. I do believe it was. No, it was a great.
Earlier in the year, we had Her, which was really wonderful.
Absolutely,
it was a good year for film.
Yeah,
very interesting films. very imaginative films and films that explored like different things. I think,
agree.
yeah, it was very interesting.
I agree.
Yeah, I have to say, Birdman, which I haven't seen yet because it hasn't arrived to Israel, seems like a very interesting
and generates
film.
already
There's a
much
lot
attention.
to look forward to
and
there.
February
And also-
2015, we'll see who will take the big prize, and Birdman is definitely a runner-up.
And also, when it comes to documentaries, there was Citizen 4 about Edward Snowden, which seemed very, very interesting.
And
indeed
our own
this
The
year.
Green Prince.
The Green Prince was a lovely documentary as well. Right. All right. You know what? Unfortunately, we've come to a part of the film that, if we're gonna cry, now's the time. We've said goodbye to some amazing talent this year.
It was a very sad year because tremendous talent was lost this year. So from Philip Seymour Hoffman to Joan Rivers to Joe Cocker to Mike Nichols, and of course Robin Williams ended his life at the age of 63. So many dramatic and comic roles which we could have enjoyed in his future, but we'll never forget Good Morning Vietnam, Mrs. Doubtfire, Aladdin, so many features that have become really part of film history and legacy. And of course many more people.
But we also lost talents who could have created for many years. You know, we lost Philip Seymour Hoffman,
46-year-old,
one of the most dazzling actors of this age. Harold Ramis died way too young, one of the greatest comedy directors of his generations, and also Bob Hoskins. Shirley Temple, maybe not before her time, but and also Mickey Rooney, Lauren Bacall, Richard Attenborough. So a lot of deaths this year of great caliber people, and some that are really, you wanted to see what they'll come up with in the future.
And especially if you take into consideration the how they died, especially when it comes to Philip Seymour Hoffman and Robin Williams. It was
such
really
a shock
tragic
to so many people, and specifically the fact that they still had productions going on. We will see in 2015 at least 3 productions that Robin Williams took part in.
Right. Philip Seymour Hoffman is also coming up in the last Hunger Games.
Exactly.
We'll see how they solve that.
CGI,
some
perhaps.
scenes we'll wait and see if it's CGI or some scenes in which they managed to keep him still there, at least his character, which was very fundamental in this series, and also the fact that these were actors, performers who were both on stage, on the small screen, on the silver screen. We saw them everywhere, and they will be terribly missed.
And we can be sure that the Oscar montage this year will be incredibly long.
Absolutely.
And touching.
An extra hour.
I'm sure. All right, let's sum up 2014. Then I think we can safely say it was a good year in cinema. I mean, especially Israeli cinema, true, but also internationally there were some interesting things going.
Yes, and I think that what Avri said, the combination of sci-fi and drama and comedy, it was a really interesting year, and there were many debuts by young directors and writers who we saw, and also the very much awaited Christopher Nolan and Ridley Scott, big production, Wes Anderson, who came back this year with very big productions, very interesting, very colorful productions, if we've mentioned Wes Anderson. And it was a very good year. Some say it was too good a year because in the upcoming Academy Awards, many say the at least best actor nominations and of course supporting actor will have to be a longer list because of so many incredible performances. If we take Foxcatcher, for example, there we have 3 very, very good performers, Steve Carell, Channing Tatum, and Mark Ruffalo.
All right, let's look forward then to 2015, see what's coming up. I have to say, I went over the list in preparation for this show, and I'm excited.
Very excited, especially for geeks, I must say, sci-fi geeks at least. So we take a look first. In April, expected is Avengers: The Age of Ultron. Once again, the Avengers return, but this time the team is joined by Elizabeth Olsen, some might say the better Olsen, and Aaron Taylor-Johnson as Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver. These are great characters, and Quicksilver back in the last X-Men had the greatest scene ever, and this is something very interesting to look forward
actors,
to.
So it's going to be
we'll
different.
See how it plays.
We'll see how it plays.
And we're going to see, for the comic book readers among us, we're going to see the Iron Man fighting the Hulk, which is like
Oh, everyone's looking forward to that. What
we
else is
move on
coming up?
to Tomorrowland. George Clooney offers this mysterious sci-fi coming up in May. This is a Brad
by Brad
Pitt's,
Bird,
yes,
yeah.
let's say wrapped up in mystery, sci-fi. The promo, the teaser looks very interesting thus far. Just a stop from sci-fi, I just want to mention that By the Sea will be released this year as well. Once again, bringing together Angelina Jolie, who will direct it, with Brad Pitt, after we saw them last in Mr. and Mrs. Smith,
And
which
of course,
brought them
Star
together.
Wars.
And, of
Number
course,
one,
Star Wars.
of course.
Yes,
Most anticipated film
number
of
7,
2015.
in fact, Star Wars number 7, the Force Awakens, and people are very exciting. This is going to be later in the year, December 2015.
Yeah. So
People-
that's almost 2016.
Yes.
people tattooed characters from the trailer on their body. People are crazy. People are insane.
They are right to do
and
so.
you're certainly one of them. Thank you so much, Shachar. Thank you, Avri.
Thank you.
Thank you at home for watching us as well. We'll be back next week with our regular edition of Culture. Join us.